You want to know the fastest way to get stuck in someone's head? It's not compliments. It's not chasing. It's not texting her good morning every day. It's this ignoring her. And I'm not talking about playing games. I'm talking about mastering one thing she can't resist: your silence. See, most people think that if you want someone to like you need to be around them all the time. Stay on their mind, send cute messages, ask them how they're doing. But here's the crazy part that actually makes you invisible. The more available you are, the less she values you. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how using Stoicism, yeah, that ancient mindset stuff, makes her chase you without you even lifting a finger. You probably don't realize how powerful silence is. Most people don't. Everyone's so obsessed with saying the right thing, making the perfect move, staying on someone's mind by showing up constantly. But here's the crazy truth. If you really want to make someone think about you, if you want to take up space in their head without lifting a finger, you don't do it by speaking. You do it by stepping back. Because when you ignore her, she can't ignore you. And no, this isn't about being rude, toxic, or playing games. This is about understanding how people's minds actually work. And the thing is, most people have it completely backwards. We live in this world where everyone's always chasing after attention. People post stories to be noticed, text first to be remembered, and overthink every little thing just to stay relevant in someone else's life. But the moment you stop participating in that, the second you pull your attention back, it messes with people's heads more than any message, gift, or compliment ever could. It's because attention is like currency. The more you give it away, the less it's worth. And when you pull it back, when you go silent, people start to realize how much it actually meant. The thing is, most guys panic when a girl they like starts acting distant. She takes longer to text back, she stops making plans, maybe she seems less excited to talk. And what do? They double down. They send another text, they try to start another conversation. They post something hoping she'll see it. All of it driven by this desperate need to pull her attention back. But what they don't get is that chasing only pushes her further away. The moment you start acting like you need someone's attention to feel okay, you lose every bit of power you had. It's like quicksand. The harder you struggle, the deeper you sink. And deep down, people can sense it. We can all feel when someone's chasing us too hard, when they're trying too hard to be liked. It's uncomfortable. It creates pressure. And naturally, we pull away from it. The people who get remembered, the ones who stay on your mind long after a conversation is over, are usually the ones who didn't seem desperate for your attention. They're the ones who didn't over-explain, who didn't constantly check in, who weren't always available. Because when something isn't immediately accessible, it becomes more valuable. That's just how our minds work. Now, I'm not saying go out of your way to be distant. That's not it. The key here is calm detachment, being so in control of yourself and your emotions that you don't feel the need to chase after someone who isn't matching your effort. It's about being able to let go of the situation without bitterness or resentment and focusing on the one thing you can actually control: your own time, energy, and mindset. That's what makes people come back. Because while everyone else is fighting for attention, trying to prove their worth, you're the one person who seems perfectly fine without it. And that's rare. That's magnetic. I know this might sound easier said than done, especially if you're in a situation where you really like her. It's normal to want attention from people we care about. It's natural to miss them when they pull away. But this is exactly where the idea of Stoicism becomes a game changer. Stoicism isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about understanding that you can't control other people's feelings, actions, or choices. The only thing you can control is how you respond. And most people's instinct is to react emotionally, to panic, to chase, to overthink. Stoicism teaches you to pause, to detach, to focus on your own world instead of trying to. And you'll notice something interesting happens when you do this. The less reactive you become, the more curious people get. When someone's used to you being the one who always reaches out, always checks in, always makes the effort, and then you don't, it messes with their head. It makes them start questioning things. Why isn't he texting me? Did something happen? Is he mad? Has he moved on? Was I not as important as I thought? The human mind hates unanswered questions, and silence creates those unanswered questions better than any words ever could. I remember seeing this happen with a friend of mine a while back. He was crazy about this girl, couldn't stop thinking about her, texting her, trying to hang out all the time. And she liked him, but she knew she had him wrapped around her finger. She didn't feel any urgency. She didn't feel like she needed to put in any effort. And why would she? She knew no matter what she did, he'd be there. Until one day he stopped. Not in a petty way, not out of anger. He just realized how much of his time and peace he was giving away for nothing in return. So he started focusing on himself again. Hit the gym, picked up a new hobby, spent time with people who actually valued him. And like clockwork, within 2 weeks, she was all over him. Where have you been? Why haven't you texted? I miss talking to you. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a trick. It was psychology. When you remove your attention from someone who's gotten used to it, it creates a vacuum. And humans can't stand a vacuum. We're wired to notice what's missing more than what's present. That's why you never realize how much you love silence until someone turns up the volume, or how peaceful things were until chaos walks in. People take consistent things for granted. And the second that consistency breaks, they notice. They feel it. The trick is to do this without bitterness, without being fake, without secretly hoping they'll chase after you. You have to be genuinely okay with where you are. And that takes discipline. It takes confidence. It takes a mindset where you don't need anyone's attention to feel valuable. And here's the funny part. The moment you truly feel that way, people pick up on it. And that's when they start chasing. Not because you made them jealous, not because you played hard to get, but because you stopped needing them. You stopped giving them the power to control how you feel. And whether they realize it or not, that kind of energy is irresistible. It's also important to realize that when you stop chasing, you give yourself room to actually see people for who they are, not for who you wish they'd be. When you're caught up in the game of attention seeking, you start ignoring red flags. You overlook signs that this person might not even be worth your time in the first place. But when you pull back, when you're not constantly focused on what they're doing, you start to see things more clearly. Are they someone who respects your space? Are they someone who actually values you when you're not in their face 24/7? Or are they just addicted to your validation, and the moment you stop giving it, they vanish? This kind of clarity is something most people never experience because they're too busy reacting. They're too busy chasing people who don't deserve them. Stoicism teaches you to stop that cycle, to sit back, to observe, to let people reveal themselves through their actions, not their words, because actions are everything. If she disappears when you stop texting first, what does that tell you? If she only reaches out when she's lonely or bored, what does that mean? It's not about punishing her. It's about protecting your own peace. It's about being so steady in yourself that you don't need to force anyone to stay in your life. And the crazy thing is, the minute you stop chasing, the minute you stop needing, you become way more attractive. Not just to her, but to everyone. Because people can feel that energy. They can tell when you're someone who's content in your own world. And that makes them want to be a part of it. The thing about people is, we're naturally drawn to what we can't fully have. It's built into us. The harder something is to get, the more valuable it feels. That's why people obsess over limited edition things, why they chase people who act a little out of reach. It's not because those things are necessarily better. It's because our brains are wired to want what seems rare. So when you pull yourself back, when you stop making yourself so easily available, people's instincts kick in. They start wondering, start doubting, start craving. Not because you did something manipulative, but because you disrupted their pattern. And patterns are comfortable. When you break them, it creates tension, and people feel that whether they realize it or not. Think about it. If someone texts you every single morning, like clockwork, and then one day, nothing, silence, no message, no check-in, no emoji. It feels weird, right? Even if you weren't that into them, you'd notice. You might even feel a little off, like something's missing. That's what silence does. It makes people confront their expectations and assumptions. It makes them question their place in your world. And the truth is, most people get lazy when they feel too safe. If they think you'll always be around, always chasing, always forgiving, they stop putting in effort. It's not always on purpose. It's just human nature. But when you step back, when you quietly disappear, it forces them to reevaluate. And this is exactly where Stoicism separates you from everyone else. See, most people can't handle the discomfort of being ignored. The moment someone stops giving them attention, they lose it. They get anxious, impulsive, desperate to fix it. They'll start over-explaining, over-apologizing, trying to force a connection that clearly isn't balanced anymore. But Stoicism teaches you to embrace that discomfort, to let it exist without reacting, to sit with your emotions instead of letting them control you. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone your attention. It's a choice, and you get to decide who's worth it. When you move like this, you stop seeing silence as rejection. You stop seeing distance as a threat. Instead, you start viewing it as information. If someone pulls away and never comes back, that's an answer. If someone only reaches out when they need something, that's an answer. And if someone suddenly starts putting in effort the moment you stop giving them free validation, well, that's an answer too. But you only notice these things when you stop chasing, when you stop reacting, when you stop clinging to the idea that you need to be wanted by everyone you're attracted to. I've seen this play out so many times, both with people I know and in my own life. One of my closest friends, let's call him Eli, was in this weird back and forth thing with a girl who honestly didn't deserve him. She'd act super interested one day, then disappear for a week, come back when she was lonely, then vanish again when someone else gave her attention. And every time, Eli would fall for it. He'd drop everything the second she texted. Didn't matter if he was out, working, or with friends. If she called, he picked up. If she wanted to hang out, he canceled plans. And it always ended the same way. She'd get what she wanted, and then she'd disappear again. Eventually, he got tired of it. Not in an angry, dramatic way. He just realized how exhausting it was to always be available for someone who only valued him when it was convenient. So he stopped. Stopped replying right away. Stopped dropping everything for her. Started focusing on his own thing. He didn't block her, didn't send a long message, didn't make a scene. He just silently removed himself from her little cycle. And what do you think happened? Within days, she started chasing. Random texts. Hey, just thinking about you. Old pictures sent out of nowhere. Invitations to hang out. It was so obvious it was almost funny. And the best part? By then, Eli didn't even care anymore. He was so over the situation that her attention didn't even hit the same way. That's the shift we're talking about here. It's not about pretending to be unbothered. It's about actually being unbothered. Actually building a life, a mindset, and a sense of peace that isn't dependent on whether one specific person likes you or not. Because the truth is, if someone needs you to constantly chase them to stay interested, they're not for you. And if they lose interest the second you stop doing the most, they never really valued you in the first place. That's what you start to realize when you stop chasing and start observing. And here's something else people don't tell you. When you pull back, it also reveals what kind of person you are. Are you someone who only values people when they're giving you attention? Or are you capable of being at peace, even when things don't go your way? That's where Stoicism really hits. Because life is unpredictable. People are unpredictable. You can't control who stays, who leaves, who notices, who forgets. But you can control whether you keep your peace intact through it all. And once you master that, you become untouchable. It's wild how fast people start showing up when you stop chasing them. Not because you manipulated them into it, but because your absence made them realize what they were taking for granted. They start remembering the little things, the conversations, the attention, the consistency. And in a world where everyone's always begging for validation, the person who doesn't need it stands out. It's like when you walk into a crowded room and everyone's trying to be noticed, and there's one person quietly doing their own thing, completely unbothered by the noise. That's the person people are curious about. That's the person people gravitate toward. And I get it. Sometimes it feels like pulling away is risky. Like if you stop trying, you'll lose them for good. But here's the hard truth. If someone disappears because you stopped chasing them, you were never really holding on to anything in the first place. You were just holding on to an illusion, an idea of what you wished it could be. And letting go of that is one of the best things you can do for yourself. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that silence is weakness, that not reacting means you don't care. But silence is a language too. And sometimes it's the loudest thing you can say. It sends a message without you having to lift a finger. It says, I'm good either way. I don't need to beg for your time. I'm not here to convince you of my worth. And trust me, people hear that message loud and clear. It's not about being heartless. It's about being smart with your energy, about realizing that attention is valuable, and you shouldn't give it away to people who haven't earned it. When you treat your attention like it matters, other people start treating it like it matters too. And the ones who don't, they slowly fade away. And that's a good thing, because your life should be filled with people who appreciate your presence, not ones who only notice it when it's gone. What's wild is how fast people adjust when they realize you're no longer sitting there waiting on them. At first, they'll test you, maybe send a casual hey or react to your story, just enough to see if you'll jump like you used to. They might even pretend like nothing's happened, hoping you'll slip back into your old pattern. That's the part where most people crack. The second a little attention comes back, they forget everything, run straight back in, and boom, they're right back in that cycle. But if you hold steady, if you keep focusing on you, if you don't rush to reply or get caught up in what it means, that's when things start shifting for real. It's in those quiet moments, when you choose not to engage, that people start realizing your value wasn't in the noise you made, it was in the peace you carried. And it's not just about being silent for the sake of it, but about showing them you're not addicted to their attention, that you don't live or die by whether or not they text back, call, or check in. And that's when they really start to feel it. Because it's not just about missing you, it's about them realizing they no longer have control over how you feel. And that's the part that stings, especially for someone who's used to you always being there. You have to remember, people aren't always conscious of how much power they hold in a dynamic. Sometimes they get so used to being chased that it doesn't even register how one-sided it is. But when that chase stops, it's impossible to ignore. And in the same way you were once anxiously checking your phone, overthinking your replies, or trying to keep them interested, they start doing that in reverse. Not because you're playing a game, but because you finally stepped out of one. That's what makes it different. This isn't manipulation. It's restoration. It's you reclaiming your energy and showing people what life looks like when you prioritize yourself. And the best part is how natural this becomes once you truly adopt it. At first, it's going to feel weird. If you're used to being the one who always reaches out, always fixes things, always gives people a pass, pulling away feels unnatural. It feels cold. But what you'll realize is it's not cold, it's calm, it's peace. It's what happens when you stop tying your worth to how much someone else wants you. And in that space, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Because you stop needing to chase validation. And when you stop needing, you stop settling. People pick up on that too. There's something unexplainably attractive about a person who isn't in a rush to prove themselves to anyone, who's fine with people liking them or not, staying or going. That kind of self-possession is rare, and rare things, as we already know, are valuable. Now, I'm not saying you'll suddenly turn into some untouchable icon who has people crawling back overnight. That's not how it works. Some people will disappear for good when you pull back, and that's actually the point. Those are the people who were only sticking around for the version of you that was easy, available, and chasing them. And when that version disappears, so do they. And good, let them. Because when you clear out people who don't value your energy, you make room for those who do. The ones who see you, even when you're not constantly trying to be seen. The ones who step up without needing to be chased. And those are the people you actually want in your life. Not just romantically, but in every area. Friends, family, whoever. People who are drawn to you for who you are, not for what you can do for their ego. It's strange how addictive peace can be once you get a taste of it. You start realizing how draining it was to constantly manage other people's feelings, to wonder where you stood, to analyze every little interaction for signs of approval or rejection. You stop doing that. You start moving differently. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that you were giving too much of yourself to people who never earned it. And when that switch flips, your entire perspective changes. You start noticing the games other people play, how they test you, how they try to get a reaction. You start seeing it clearly. Those moments where someone purposely pulls away to see if you'll chase or sends mixed signals just to keep you on edge. And instead of falling for it, you just don't. You let them do what they're going to do. And you focus on your life, your goals, your peace. And it's not that you're ignoring people for no reason or cutting off everyone who makes a mistake. It's that you're finally choosing yourself over their chaos. What's funny is, the ones who used to ignore you when you were chasing them will start checking in again. Not because you begged them to, but because you didn't. They'll test the waters, a random message, a like, a comment. They'll try to gauge if you're still there. And if you're really about this, you'll smile when you see it. But you won't jump. You won't rush. You'll realize you're not in the same place you used to be. And the control that used to be in their hands, it's gone. Because it was never really about them. It was about you not realizing you had options the whole time. And here's where it gets deep. When you start living like this, you become a mirror. People start seeing themselves reflected in your silence. If someone was using you for attention, they feel exposed. If someone valued you but took you for granted, they feel regret. If someone genuinely cared about you, they'll realize they miss your presence in a real way, not just for ego's sake. And in every case, your silence forces people to confront themselves. That's why it's so powerful. This kind of stoic detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean you turn into a cold, distant person who can't connect. It just means you stop overextending yourself for people who aren't meeting you halfway. You start applying a standard, not out of pride or arrogance, but out of self-respect. And if someone wants to be in your life, they'll match your effort. If not, they'll fall off. And either way, you win. Because you're no longer trying to force connections that aren't mutual. What's beautiful about this is the confidence it builds. Not from being arrogant or acting like you're better than anyone, but from genuinely knowing your worth. From no longer being impressed by surface-level attention, half-hearted messages, or weak excuses. From understanding that you don't need to convince anyone to see your value. It's either obvious to them or it isn't. And if it isn't, that's not your problem. And you'll notice, once you live in this headspace, people treat you differently. They respect your time more. They value your presence. They sense the difference in your energy, even if they can't explain it. Because the truth is, people can tell when you're at peace. They can feel when you don't need them. And ironically, that's when they're drawn to you the most. Not because you manipulated them, but because people are naturally attracted to strength, calm, and certainty in a world full of noise and neediness. And what makes this whole thing work isn't about pretending. It's about genuinely being okay with where you stand. You're not ignoring someone to make them chase you. You're not pulling away just to see if they'll come running. You're pulling away because your peace matters more than the little hit of dopamine you get when someone pays attention to you. That's the real win. That's when you start to realize that most of the energy you were wasting chasing people was just a distraction from what you really needed to be doing, which is building yourself, your life, your mindset, your future. The people who matter will notice your absence. The ones who don't, won't. And either way, you get clarity. You stop guessing. You stop hanging on to these almost situationships and half-hearted connections that drain you more than they ever fill you up. And little by little, the urge to break your silence just to get a reaction fades. You don't need to check if they miss you. You don't need to see if they finally figured out your worth, because you've already figured it out for yourself, and that's enough. That's the whole point of this Stoic mindset. You get to a place where your happiness, your confidence, your sense of value isn't sitting in someone else's hands. It's yours. It's actually funny how predictable people are once you stop playing the role they expected from you. Some will try harder. Some will get frustrated. Some will straight up disappear. And every single reaction is good for you. Because what you're really doing here is filtering. You're creating space for the people who genuinely care, the ones who don't need you to constantly prove your worth to them, the ones who value you in silence and in presence, the ones who don't treat attention like a currency they can spend whenever it's convenient. You'll notice your standards shift too. Things you used to tolerate will feel ridiculous. The moment someone starts playing those old games, you'll see right through it, and it won't even tempt you anymore. You'll laugh at the weak attempts, the half-baked apologies, the sudden miss you messages after weeks of silence. It'll be so clear that what you were chasing before wasn't even real connection. It was comfort, familiarity, a false sense of security. And once you've had peace, you won't trade it for chaos again. Not for anyone. This is where attraction flips completely. People can sense when you've stopped needing them. It changes the entire energy between you. They don't feel like they have power anymore. Instead, they feel curiosity, even anxiety, because now the dynamic is unfamiliar to them. The person who used to chase isn't chasing. The one who used to explain everything isn't explaining. The one who used to stick around no matter how badly they were treated is nowhere to be found. And whether they admit it or not, it makes them wonder what changed. And if they come back, which a lot of them will, you'll have options. You're not stuck anymore. You're not desperate for their attention because you've proven to yourself that you're good either way. You've built a life that's fulfilling, friends who actually care, hobbies that make you forget about your phone, goals that excite you more than a text ever could. And from that place, you can choose. Not out of loneliness, not out of boredom, but out of real interest and alignment. The crazy part is, you'll probably attract way better people than the ones you were chasing before. People who don't play games, people who have emotional maturity, people who respect boundaries. And it won't be because you became colder or less caring. It'll be because you raised your baseline. And people who aren't on that level won't even be able to hold your attention long enough to stick around. The whole quality of your relationships, your conversations, even your casual interactions improves when you stop giving your energy to people who don't value it. You'll find peace in the quiet, moments where no one's texting, where no one's checking in, and instead of feeling anxious, you'll feel calm. Because you know anyone meant to be in your life will show up without being chased. They'll reach out without being begged. They'll value you without having to be reminded. And anyone who doesn't, that's just more space for the people who will. It sounds so simple, but it changes everything. You no longer tie your self-worth to someone else's inconsistency. You stop overthinking whether someone's silence means you did something wrong. You realize that if someone's not making an effort, it's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of theirs. And once you truly believe that, once you really let it settle into your mindset, the whole world feels lighter. You start focusing on things you can actually control, like your growth, your goals, your peace. And ironically, when you stop needing anyone to pick you, people will line up too. It's just how it works. That's why this is so powerful, because the moment you stop chasing, you become what people naturally gravitate toward. Not out of manipulation, but because you've become whole on your own. The kind of person who doesn't need constant reassurance or attention to feel worthy. The kind of person people respect, admire, and eventually want to be around. That's the energy you want to move with. Calm, collected, patient. Not because you're playing games, but because you've finally outgrown them. Because your peace matters more. Because your time matters more. And once you live like that, you'll wonder why you ever wasted a second begging for attention in the first place. If you got value from this, watch the next video. You'll like what's coming.